Recently, I had the following interaction on TikTok, and please stay with me because this seemingly unrelated anecdote is much of the reason why I'm making this video. On a compilation of funny Ryan Gosling interview moments, somebody commented and said, "Ryan Gosling is just the stoned version of Ryan Reynolds. You can't convince me otherwise." And now for the record, Ryan Gosling is my favorite actor. I think that he's incredibly versatile. It's pretty underrated just how funny he is. He's given a plethora of engaging dramatic performances too, and he's been in many good to incredible movies. Ryan Reynolds is fine. He has that intense charm over straight guys that I will never quite fully understand. And I liked the Deadpool movie when it came out, but that was long before my frontal lobe was fully developed, so Reynolds is not a particularly great actor, and he's definitely not in great movies. And so to that comment, I replied and said, "No, because Ryan Gosling is good and is in good movies." Someone else replied to me saying, quote, "Ryan Reynolds is a genius and his writing is top tier, lol. And this is why we're here today. Ryan Reynolds is not really a screenwriter. He is an A-list actor. He's a businessman. You've seen the commercials.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here.
He founded a production company in 2018 that's been doing a decent amount of stuff, but his writing is top tier? Respectfully, you do not know what you're talking about. Ryan Reynolds has approximately 2 writing credits for feature films, and they are shared credits with an established screenwriting duo, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, that wrote the 2 sequels for Deadpool. But that TikTok comment about Ryan Reynolds and his writing made me realize that many people probably do not understand how film and TV works. Rob McKittrick wrote what Reynolds said in Waiting, Peter Chiarelli for The Proposal, etc., etc. Writer-directors are relatively common, writer-actors kind of less so, but famous examples are like Sylvester Stallone for Rocky, Affleck and Damon for Good Will Hunting, and Tina Fey for many an episode of 30 Rock. I thought this was pretty self-explanatory. I mean, imagine on a movie set that all the actors had to come in with lines that they wrote for their character, and how would that even work? I don't really get it. But as a guy that runs a primarily music-based discussion channel on YouTube, it made me think that for the world of music, the "don't they write their own stuff" argument makes a lot more sense. So let's establish the different categories of songwriters. I will be breaking each one down, give a few examples of each, and hopefully even if you know this kind of thing generally when it comes to music, everybody will learn something new today.
But you are the life.
This is the group that correctly goes along with that TikTok commenter's mindset of Ryan Reynolds say funny thing. Did he not write funny thing? Full artistic control straight from the heart of one individual. This is the concept of musicianship that is often romanticized. These are your poets and storytellers taking their unique life experiences and doing all the work from ideation to writing the music and lyrics to performing. Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, Prince, Fiona Apple, Kevin Parker of Tame Impala, Kate Bush, Elliott Smith. These are singular, irreplaceable artists, and that's kind of the whole point. When something is completely your own, the style is often more distinct, not necessarily for better or for worse, but Joni Mitchell is the only Joni Mitchell. Nobody else is Prince. You know Kate Bush when you hear it, right? Genres and subgenres for these one-person entities can vary, but there's a reason why singer-songwriter is often described as a type of music. Again, back to this romantic idea of what a musician is. This is oftentimes the person with an acoustic guitar and nothing else, or somebody sitting at a piano writing a ballad. In certain time periods and subgenres of the hip-hop world, there's also a certain pride in writing all of your own stuff and not having quote-unquote ghostwriters, but there are often other people in the room. If you go through the track listings of legends like Jay-Z, Eminem, and Kendrick, they will typically be involved in the writing of every single track. Definitely a lot of them they write on their own, but then scattered throughout, you will see the names of random producers and songwriters that assisted them during the process of a given song. This should kind of go without saying in a way, but if you only see one songwriter listed for a track, the less connected to the mainstream music industry that song probably is. You can sort of use the word independent as a double entendre when describing a lot of these DIY artists. You're independent because you're not signed to a major record label, but you're also literally independent. You're riding solo because you don't have the resources and means to have 30 people from LA in the room with you to help you write a song. Not to go all I was born in the wrong generation or something, but on the big stage, that genre, the completely solo singer-songwriter, is more of a dying breed now than it used to be. People like Taylor Swift, Hozier, Ed Sheeran, Phoebe Bridgers, and Frank Ocean are fantastic songwriters, but they are not 100% in the same category as the people I mentioned earlier. They will be there for every single song. They're not going to have somebody else write for them entirely, but you will usually see some other names next to them on a track listing. You can also see your name on this screen if you donate $1 a month to me on Patreon. Yes, for just $1, you get a thank you on screen in my YouTube videos. You get access to thousands of music recommendations on my Patreon backlog, and you get one monthly Patreon exclusive discussion video. Okay, back to this video, sorry.
Where hope keeps shining on every...
Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, Whitney Houston. These are some of the biggest, most iconic names ever that you will see on every single best singers of all time list, and they did not write anything. Does that change your perception of them? It's fine if it does, I guess, but it's also very impressive to me in a way that they only sang words that other people wrote, and yet the songs are still so tied to them as if they wrote the lyrics. This concept might challenge a lot of traditional thinking about what non-musicians consider and revere of their favorite artists. But in my eyes, it is an art form in itself to interpret a song so well. Elliott Smith writes a track in the way that only Elliott Smith can. But it's also pretty neat when Whitney Houston sings I Will Always Love You so powerfully in a way that only she could, that it tricks people into thinking, well, she just must have written that. It's not like Dolly Parton released the same song 20 years prior. I mentioned it earlier, but just to clarify and double check that we're on the same page, when I say songwriter or how this person writes a song, it's not just about the words, right? It's music and lyrics. There's a difference between these words on paper. When your rooster crows at the break of dawn, look out your window and I'll be gone. You're the reason I'm a-traveling on, but don't think twice, it's all right. And that when you hear it in the song, Dylan decided that we're in the key of E major, he's singing the words in a specific way, don't think twice, it's all right. And that during the title lyric, he's finger-picking from C to G to C. That's an example of a songwriter who is doing both music and lyrics. That awesome group of people that I talked about before, they write all the words to the song, and they write how the melodies go throughout. This can also be done in tandem or in a group. Lennon and McCartney are the most famous songwriting duo ever. They would both write lyrics and melodies. But there can also be a sharp divide between these two forms. If anyone saw that Taron Egerton Rocket Man biopic, you can see that Elton John's buddy Bernie wrote all the words to the songs, but then Elton's the one that sings at the piano and turns "It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside" to "It's a little bit funny, this feeling." And that's basically how all of Elton John's hits came to life. Bernie is the lyricist, Elton is the composer. Everyone's different. There are a million different ways to write a song. This is just what worked best for them, to specialize in that one aspect that they were better at. Music by Rogers, lyrics by Hammerstein. In the 1975, Maddie is the primary lyricist and George does more of the music, and so on.
We made like so many other big songs for other people during that time.
All right, so remember how Sinatra, Elvis, and Whitney Houston weren't writing anything? Imagine if the person that was writing all of their songs was some guy in Sweden. This is Carl Martin Sandberg, known professionally as Max Martin, and he has written every song that you have ever heard. I joke, but just to name a few, Martin has credits for Baby One More Time, It's Gonna Be Me, I Kissed a Girl, My Life Would Suck Without You, California Girls, Teenage Dream, Last Friday Night, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, Roar, Shake It Off, Blank Space, Can't Feel My Face, Can't Stop the Feeling, Blinding Lights, Save Your Tears, amongst many more. He is halfway to an EGOT with nominations for the awards that he's missing. He's won Songwriter of the Year a record 11 times, and while he is a genius in his own right, you have to give him that credit. Well, somebody like Max Martin or his younger, goofier American counterpart Benny Blanco, these are machine-driven, capitalistic pop radio hit makers. They are very good at making songs that become very popular, as you can tell by that list that I said before, or the fact that they have hundreds of millions of dollars even though you wouldn't recognize them if they were walking down the street. The pros and cons of guys like these are pretty obvious. If you watch an interview with Benny Blanco, it's always, me and this person made a demo for this song, and then he plays a snippet from a mediocre but very popular radio song that you heard in 2017, and then he says, originally it was going to go to this musician, but then it went to this musician instead, but then their label didn't like it, so actually we gave it to this band, and then it went #1. I am choosing peace today, and I will not sit here and complain about all the reasons why maybe it's not a good thing that a song is so generic and cookie cutter that it could be for any of this artist, or this band, and it would go #1 in every case. I'm not going to talk about that. So these types of songwriters, your Max Martins and Benny Blancos, are often involved in the executive production of the music too, because in modern music, production goes along with the songwriting in an interesting way. Jack Antonoff is famously the producer-songwriter behind recent Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey, and Lorde stuff. In the late 90s to mid-2000s, Timbaland was that person for Missy Elliott, Justin Timberlake, and Aaliyah. I am really summarizing a lot of stuff right now, but names like Pharrell and Babyface are other prime examples of those kinds of people that shape so much of the music we know, writing, producing, all around collaborating, without it being super obvious that they are the ones doing it. This category is more of a spectrum. Some of these songwriters can create the most cookie-cutter song imaginable and then CC it to 30 different musicians, while others latch on to these uber talented people, work very closely with them throughout the whole creative process, and help guide them to a sound that they were looking for. These are like the major categories of how songwriting works in the industry, and if you're curious how a given track was made, it was either one of these or some combination of multiple at the same time. A guy like Bruno Mars is the living embodiment of doing a little bit of all of these. Sometimes it's just him, other times it's with his like songwriting group that he has, other times it's a duo, and so on. And sometimes you get those very fun cases when you say, did you know that Bruno Mars wrote F You by CeeLo Green? Maybe you think that one kind is more admirable than the other. I do too. But it's all very interesting to me regardless. Above all else, I hope that by now it is absolutely clear that Ryan Gosling is not the stoned version of Ryan Reynolds, and actually Ryan Gosling writes his own music, and in this video essay, Hey, thank you for watching that video. Be sure to check out my Patreon for $1 a month. You can get access to monthly exclusive content. You can see all my music recommendations on Patreon. You can get your name thanked on screen on my YouTube videos. Be sure to follow me on social media, RenshawHS. Thank you, bye.